Now, I think after the Second World War, when the newly elected British Labour Party enacted radical social legislation, including a national health service, there was probably a tacit acceptance of the existence of Northern Ireland by Catholics, but the Unionist government always tended to think of a sizeable minority, potentially rebellious within its midst, and surrounded by a republic which was hostile. So I was born free of charge in a British National Health Service hospital, and my father received British benefits. One of the things which baffles and maybe even shames my generation is how ready our parents and grandparents were passive in accepting a second-class role. American academics who visit Northern Ireland and who are interested in civil rights are often confused by the fact that education was not a massive civil rights issue as it had been in, say, Mississippi or Alabama, but not in Northern Ireland. Now, why was that? Well, essentially, Catholic education was as good as, if not better, than the state system. In the 1920s, the Unionist government and the Catholic bishops had arrived at an agreement whereby they would fund, I think it was 90% of the costs, and the Catholic Church would raise the balance and essentially have a free hand in religion while a common curriculum was in use. Now, of course, this means that the state system is in fact de facto Protestant. The schools had Protestant chaplains, but it also meant that catechism was taught for an hour every morning in Catholic schools. Now, a word about Devonshire Street. Along a street of 2 up, 2 down terraced houses, outside toilets, it was almost unique. In the parlance of the day, it was mixed. Catholics lived mostly to the east of the street, Protestants mostly to the west, and the streets to the north were Catholic and the streets to the south Protestant. In the 19th century, it had the distinction of being a place of confrontation, but although it was deemed a slum and scheduled at some future point for demolition, it was actually quite peaceable. Basically, everybody wanted to get out and into one of the sprawling council estates being built on the outskirts of the city. Protestants hoped to end up in Gilnahirk in the east of the city, or Rathcoole in the north of the city, and Catholics to the west of the city in Andersonstown. Now, living in a mixed street has its own set of compromises and etiquettes and protocols. Mostly religion and politics was not as overt as it would be in the streets around us. But there were times when we were aware of the differences. Each Sunday, the Protestant families would leave the street to go to Presbyterian, Church of Ireland, or smaller Gospel Hall churches, and the Catholics would go to St. Peter's Pro Cathedral. And of course, every morning the children left the street to go to their respective primary schools. But mostly what I remember is good manners. The Protestants had a never on a Sunday ethos, and basically Catholics respected this. Parents would tend to ensure that there were no ball games, no excessive noise, but there were times, seasonal, like the 12th of July, where more sinister life would intrude. This is of course the Great Orange commemoration, and in July a few British flags would appear at the western end of the street, often accompanied by a bored young policeman from the Royal Ulster Constabulary to ensure that it did not disappear or was damaged in any way. Through the 1960s, Devonshire Street remained mixed but had a growing Catholic population. You can choose two theories. Younger, noisier Catholic families moved in, making elderly Protestant residents feel alienated, or the Protestant residents got those promised council houses more quickly through their Unionist councillors. There had been a brief IRA campaign from 1956 to 1962, which ended in abject failure and 30 deaths. At that point, the IRA developed a peaceful Marxist strategy, and a lot of veterans left the IRA.